Good afternoon. Before I invite you to the panel, please take your seats because first we're gonna see a short video, and then I'll introduce the panel, and we're gonna take it from there. So to start off, I'll be sitting here alone. And if we could switch the video, please.
Neutralność klimatyczna. Wyzwania dla konkurencyjności i rozwoju. - 2050 rok to data osiągnięcia neutralności klimatycznej przez Unię Europejską. Dziś po kryzysie COVID oraz agresji Rosji na Ukrainę wiemy, że musimy też myśleć o konkurencyjności naszych gospodarek. Jak pogodzić potrzeby gospodarki z realizacją celów klimatycznych? Jedną z odpowiedzi jest inicjatywa Nowego Ładu dla czystego przemysłu, czyli działanie na rzecz zachowywania konkurencyjności przemysłu przy jednoczesnej redukcji emisji gazów cieplarnianych. Wsparciem muszą być innowacje, które dają szansę zadbania o bezpieczeństwo energetyczne przy zachowaniu sprawiedliwej transformacji oraz z uwzględnieniem polityki spójności. I tu kluczową rolę odgrywają fundusze unijne, zapewniając finansowanie rozwoju. Cele klimatyczne, konkurencyjność, innowacje, bezpieczeństwo energetyczne, sprawiedliwa transformacja, polityka spójności. Jak najskuteczniej pogodzić te cele?
Okay, so good afternoon once again. This is the intro to this panel. And we'll have an excellent panel today, 6 very good speakers, and I'll be grilling them happily. In alphabetical order, please come to the stage. Mikołaj Budzanowski, CEO of EIT InnoEnergy, Central and Eastern Europe. If you could give him a warm applause. Thanks. First come, first served. Jan Dusik, Deputy Director General at DG Klima, European Commission. Marcin Korolec, CEO of Green Economy Institute and my former boss. Bartłomiej Kras, Deputy CEO of Impact Clean Power Technologies. Ari Naim, Chief of the Polish Office of the World Bank. And Agata Steinda, member of the board of the Solaris Basin Coach. And my name is Krzysztof Bolesta. I'm State Secretary of the Ministry of Climate and Environment. And I'll have the pleasure to doing this panel with you. We will also have a graphic depiction of our discussion. This will be going on in the background. There's someone very skillful somewhere in the dark doing this, and we'll see this every now and again once the discussion progresses. And we have 2 hours, more or less 30 minutes, 20 minutes before the end. I'll invite you to get questions from the floor. Just before we start, I just wanted to complete this introduction because I think it needs a more detailed context in a way that we designed climate policy or energy transition in Europe at the start of this century, and basically we led this transformation by setting targets. Initially, it was quite easy because there were low-hanging fruit and there was plenty of good business around. But now getting to 2050 is more and more difficult. The competition is growing fierce, and also geopolitics is changing. We have growing China, growing US that is becoming more assertive. So the multilateralism is actually fragmenting. The trade barriers are increasing. And also we have a hot war on our doorstep. And because of that war, the unprovoked Russian aggression on Ukraine, we had to fasten our diversification away from Russia. So we basically cut our energy supplies from Russia. And that creates an additional pressure on energy cost. So this is the background for this panel. And can we change the situation of Europe? Can we increase our competitiveness? And can European companies flourish in that very uncertain environment globally? I think that we can, and we need to change slightly our ways so far. And the three elements that I'm trying to repeat during our Polish presidency in the European Union over the next 6 months is vision, action, and political courage. So these three elements will try to push, and this field, energy and climate, is the start. But before we delve into very difficult and challenging topics, maybe we can have a small victory lap, because I believe that spending European funds so far, it's been a great success in Poland. And I'll start maybe with Mikołaj, because you've been around in different roles in public life and now business, so you probably have experience in how the European funds actually made a big difference.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Yes, I used to be the minister as well in the government, but then for more than 11 years I worked in the private sector, industrial sector, so very heavy production of aluminium, chemical, steel, and copper. So actually, I do really feel the pros and cons of European Union. But in most cases, I have to admit, from the regulatory point of view, but as well from the actually EU support in terms of financing, I just only have to say, just only pros. And we really have grown our companies within the EIT, energy, more than 200 companies, because we did have this access to the European Union funds who were supporting all our energy products and then energy investments, but as well in very heavy industry, in automotive industry, steel or aluminium. We really have boosted our factories during the last, let's say, 10 years. And this year will be most probably the most important in the history of, let's say, 15 years, because of the recovery fund and the funds that will be distributed and invested in the Polish industry. So for us, this is really extremely important. In terms of a general question concerning the energy prices, I would say that I'm very much supportive these targets, which are very ambitious. But really, I used to work in the very heavy industry. I know what does it mean to pay a high energy price cost, but nevertheless, the only one solution to be really independent and to lower down the cost of production in Europe is renewable energy production. This is the only one way. No oil, no gas. I was also trading with gas for several years. It's a very volatile commodity, and we cannot rely on something that we import from outside, and that costs a lot of money, like at least 100 billion euros each quarter. So imagine each quarter we pay as European Union 100 billion euros to some external suppliers, whether it is US, Middle East, it used to be as well Russia. And this is big mistake. And this is big mistake because we do not invest in ourselves, we don't invest in our factories and in our own domestic production. And from my 10 years, let's say, experience in the very heavy industry, and now being the member of the in the energy team. I really even more believe in this, that this is really something like a Bible for us. Yes, be independent for external suppliers.
Marcin, you've been around this European integration process since the very beginning, introducing Poland to the EU as well. So you must see the difference the European funds have made over the years. I came here by train. It's now very easy. This center has been co-funded in some way or form from European money. Basically, the information boards for, this has been co-funded from European money have been so ubiquitous, we don't notice them anymore. Can you give your experience on this?
I see that you are a good servant of this government. I think that is a fact that Poland is probably European champion in spending money from Cohesion Fund, and we benefited that in the big extent. But I think the success of your previous company, Borishev production company of spare parts for automotive, as well as general Polish success of the integration is the fact that we have access to European single market. And that is the real engine of growth for Poland. Cohesion Fund and regional policy, that was a big part, but the biggest part is European single market. And I'm saying that because I know that you have your compass somewhere, but I don't really like the way of thinking that we can compete with Chinese or Americans relaxing state aid, because state aid is what is disrupting the single market, and that way is...
I'm taking us on a victory lap, and you already jumping to, keeping competitiveness high.
Okay, I came with a train, which was co-financed by European Union, and I'm very happy to be here as well in this beautiful...
No, I think the story is very simple. Like, so far, cohesion funds have been a success, but it's certainly not enough. So I think it's fair to say that we've been using them very well. And particularly, I think Poland has been a leader in using the funds over the years. But now I think the tables have turned, and we need to change focus. And I think we'll have discussion in time, if time permits, to if the current design of cohesion policy is good for boosting competitiveness, or we should maybe design something else. But I think first I wanted to start with assessing where we are, and moving to Solaris. I think you've been indirectly benefiting from the funds a lot, because the ministry and the National Fund for Environmental Protection has been paying a lot to not to you, but to all the cities around Poland to decarbonize transport, and you came up with a very good product.
I fully agree. I think that if we take the picture today, I think riding an electric bus or a hydrogen bus, even in Poland, is a normal thing, and I'm also happy that most of those buses are Solaris buses. But there are also other brands, and that shows that there's competition on the market and that the market is growing. I think 15 years ago or 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, specifically in Poland, in terms of mindset, why we would have electric buses, why would we invest, because Solaris is having our business through public procurement. So this is a decision at the policy level, and public operators who actually have to decide that their fleet will be electric. And that wasn't an easy way to overcome. And I was thinking about that yesterday, that this is a combination of many factors. One, we had, as Solaris, an entrepreneurial drive to think that this is the time to say diesel must go away. And we will believe in electric buses, in the transformation of public transport, and zero mobility. And we had the product. We had the technology. We created this in Poland. And then we believe that this product will be reliable and safe for our passengers, because this is the most important element. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of passengers on our buses every day, and this is our responsibility. And then from the regulatory point of view, at that time, we had to have some bold decision makers who wanted to invest in e-mobility, who wanted to give it a try. Even Krakow is a walking example, because one of the first electric buses was here in 2014. And they are still buying those buses, and I think it has been a success for many, many cities that this is a normal stage. So at that time, it's from zero to hero. When you didn't know how to make that business, you didn't know what, even if the funds exist on the infrastructure, on how to invest in that fleet, which is far more expensive than conventional drives. We made it happen, of course, and I think it's a huge change and transformation of how we look at this side. And as I said, it required a mindset change, firstly, right? And the funds, they of course followed, and they made it happen, because all of us who have been abroad, that was happening in other countries. So I think we made a huge step, and our story is a success in that we supported that contribution.
And have you been using any of the funds yourself as a company? And also to Bartłomiej?
In terms, Bartek probably will say more about this, because he creates batteries and they're more innovative than buses. But of course, we have been beneficiary of many state support on all our innovations, because as you may imagine, we have delivered more than 5,000 zero-emission buses so far. From electric, hydrogen buses, trolley buses. Those buses have to be continuously improved and redesigned, because technology is not something that is constant. So, and Bartek will comment on how many times we move with new technology of batteries, how batteries have performed in the last 2 years, and the step is enormous. So for us, of course, all the innovative projects, whether this is a regional, local aid, it is there. We have been using it whenever we can. But obviously, as a company that is growing, and is a company of such a size, because we have 3,000 people and we deliver 1,600 buses per year, of course, it's a part of our work.
Okay, Bartek?
Of course, we used European funds in the beginning. So back in 2010, 2011, nobody wanted to invest in batteries, and batteries were not bankable. So we could just start the company, go to the bank with the business plan, and get money for it. So a couple of projects from help us a lot. We also get help from the fund like Energy. Also use their fund in the very beginning to start technology. But at a certain moment, we started focusing for our own development, and we also did one common project with Solaris for certain trolley bus technologies on in-motion charging, something very special technology used in the trolley bus today. But at the beginning, the funds help, and now we see that we need to keep for the certain period of time the support of the cities to buy those fleets. For the certain period of time, because we cannot manage a situation that electric bus will not be competitive at a certain moment. It has to be competitive. So we have certain period with some funds and subsidies for the cities, but from certain moment of time, tomorrow, next year, 2 years from now, we have to really demonstrate that the electric bus or fuel cell bus makes sense commercially. So TCO, total cost of ownership, will be much lower than the diesel bus. And this will be the breakthrough. And so we have to use this funds in a wise way to start the market, to not let companies bankrupt, because, as I said, nobody is going to finance the businesses like this. And then put those money on the market and then let it run on a commercial way. And then the European funds has to be focused on the next-gen technologies and repeat the circle once again, because the world is not waiting for us. So actually, the world is already over Europe in few distances, unfortunately, which we hopefully discuss it later.
Yes. Harry, can you complete the victory lap? Because we are gaining momentum to climb to more difficult topics.
Sure. I mean, from our perspective, I mean, Poland has been probably the most successful country in Europe over the past 30 years. And so this has been partly due to the EU fund and the convergence process. But I mean, I would say, let's not forget about all the reforms that go with it and the skills of the Polish people and the commitment to this reform agenda. So I think when we look at Poland right now, we see a highly successful country. But I heard you when you say vision, action, courage, right? I would add innovation, agility in a fast-changing world, and maybe coordination, which is where maybe now we need to really make progress in Europe and in Poland in particular if we want to move to the next stage of this structural reform agenda.
Thank you very much. And as I said, we just discussed some good things, and now let's climb. Jan, I think everyone in this room heard about Letta report, Draghi report. These are very thick papers. I haven't read them, 600 pages each. But from executive summary, I know it's a very grim reading. It's very sad if you are a European. And I don't think it's only because of the fact that they've been drafted by Italians in Brussels, missing the sun. I think there's different reasons. So does the Commission see the need to change some policies to adjust the kind of the famous Green Deal, and what would you do about this? How would you implement the reports?
Right. Well, I can witness that it was raining in Brussels this morning, and I was very happy to come here and see the blue sky. So that's already positive. On the way, unfortunately, I had to fly because we don't have railways so good from Brussels all the way to here that it would be easy to get. But on the plane, I managed to read the competitiveness compass, which is a little lighter than the reports of the Italian ex-prime ministers. It's still a solid reading. But I think that we need a little bit. I like very much the Monty Python, and I think looking at the bright side of life is one thing that we need to do more. And then we also, as you asked the question to the other panelists about what good we got from the European cohesion policy, it reminded me what did the Romans ever do good for us, also from Monty Python. And there's quite a number of good things that have come across. And I think that now we are very much getting ourselves into a depression of all the, and there's many negative things. There is war, there is worsening climate change, there is the recession, there is the push from China's and others' competition. So there's many reasons to be worried and to paint a grim picture. But there's also good reasons where we have a solid foundation, and we need to find a way how to build on that foundation. And of course, we need to paint that picture in a situation when others are painting a different picture. They're saying everything that is wrong is because of the Green Deal, or is because of the dysfunctional European cooperation, or different. And that may be for competition reasons, or it can be for geopolitical reasons. We can see that the big, massive powers in the world are competing for influence, and I think our common task is to fight it back and to draw the picture of Europe that is that stands on its feet, that has that has the courage. I share your vision, action, and political courage motives. I think that we need more of that, and we need to draw that optimism that will lead us out of
of the difficult situation where we are. Otherwise, we can dig deeper and deeper, and then we will see around Europe that the populist forces will gain more power, and in the end, we will have nowhere to move, and we will still not have the solutions that they are calling for, but they don't sometimes have the recipes for it. So I think that looking at those foundations, looking at that acquis, is something that we should have more of. I came back to Krakow last time I was here when I came for the COP24 in Katowice. I was living in Krakow, but I hear that Katowice has grown into a green city, and I think that's also something that is worth recognizing. That also maybe thanks to the COP that has taken place in the city, that there has been a major progress on that.
Mostly cohesion funds, again. But you nicely escaped the question of whether the European Union should make a pivot and slightly change its ways, or just continue. And I know that Marcin is really keen on jumping on this question because you already started. If you read Letta and Draghi, they are very, very critical on certain things. And it's like, in order to get to the moon, we need to prepare very well. And the Commission comes up and here is a compass. I mean, it's slightly underwhelming. Like, if you want to go to the moon, you don't need a compass. You know where the moon is. We really need very, very tangible pieces of legislation, maybe some budgetary discussion. So if we don't find this in the compass, where would we find it? In the Clean Industrial Deal? Can you tell us more about the Clean Industrial Deal?
Right. Well, I maybe answered differently your question because I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk about the positive things as well. But I actually think that the compass is a positive start of a conversation that we need to have, and it's just a start. I'm coming from the European Commission, which is one of the EU institutions. Poland has the presidency of the Council. There will be debates in the Council about the compass, about the Clean Industrial Deal, and there are decisions which can be taken by the Commission. We can propose legislation, we can simplify, and you will see a simplification of legislation, not in terms of throwing away the targets, but rather in terms of finding how we can be most efficient, how we can build synergies, etc. So you find all of that there, and then you need the political courage, and sometimes that political courage means agreement of 27 heads of states on moving forward, and basically showing the way that there is a courage, there is a leadership that we want the whole European project to succeed, to overcome these combined crises, and we are ready to invest into that. I think that you will hear, you can count the number of times where investment is talked about in the compass, and to create the conditions, because the pressures from outside are big, and we need to be resilient as Europe, and we need to come together with the 27 voices if we are to resist that pressure and to be successful, to get our markets, to get people buying the products that we are producing in Europe, and at the same time facing and responding to the climate crisis.
Marcin, what do you think about the compass?
There is a good British habit that if you want to be credible, you need to criticize the Commission. So
I'm no longer a member of the EU.
True.
Look where it brought them. This attitude.
So I need to change notes then. I like your sentence with this compass and the question how to get to the moon, because compass is two-dimensional and going to the moon is 3 dimensions, and I think that is where I have some doubts about the mood in which the ideas for EU competitiveness were presented yesterday. And I think we need, if we want to compete with so-called Chinese and others, need to change foundations of policy. And change foundations not in a way to scrap the so-called Green Deal, but in formulating in a different way foundations. Because you started saying that we had a tendency to define goals and targets. So we basically, our policy is basically based on creating the market, which is basically the market for Chinese goods. And that is the missing element from yesterday's presentation of the compass. Because it is not only about investments, it is also about subsidies. In those clean tech industries, you have massive production with low margin. Batteries, heat pumps, maybe not, but solar panels, etc. So you have a very big production, small margins. And if you want to be competitive, you need to subsidize production, what Chinese are doing, what our US colleagues are doing, or I don't know, because the fate of IRA is not certain. But saying that we need money for investment is not a good solution. We need to subsidize production if we want to be competitive with others, our external competitors. That is, so from market creation to supply of products which will lead us to the climate neutrality objectives.
But it's a weird concept, because then you'll have a race globally who pays more, and that's like a slapping championship.
You can say so, but I don't think we have a luxury to not start with this competition. Chinese started 10 years ago, and they are ahead of us. So we are already late. So, and we see that we are uncompetitive with our technologies in Europe, clean tech technology. Solar production is gone. Battery is not delivering, I mean, not progressing. I will not quote names of different investments. So what are the...
Mikołaj might later on.
What other way of starting this competition towards new technologies we have? Because I see tendency that we will say, we will scrap Green Deal, so, and then what? So all technologies, diesel?
Jan, you wanted to come back on...
Yeah, just 2 quick points, or 3 actually. So one was on the subsidies, and of course this is a difficult political debate. You always have elections somewhere where you need to wait where the government will shape and what their position will be. We are ahead of a discussion of the multi-annual financial perspective for the EU, which will show the degree to which our leaders are ready to invest, and
Which in human language means the
how much money they put on the
budget.
table into the next budget of the EU. Thank you, thank you, Christ. So that's one. The other one, apart from subsidies, we also have the emission trading scheme and the revenues, which are not subsidies, but which are basically means where we take the money for pollution and we put it on the table for decarbonization. So it's a revolving mechanism where you actually generate the funds, and we are always often we are told, well, it's just Europe doing something, and we only have 6% of global emissions, and nobody else is doing anything. There is more than 70 places in the world where they have some kind of carbon pricing or emission trading, and we are working with a number of countries to introduce them. So this is an economic instrument that can generate funds, which maybe don't need subventions from the governments, and then we need to make sure that we can use them efficiently. And third point is what you will see a little bit in the Compass and probably more in the Clean Industrial Deal is the external dimension. European Union is still an important trading partner, most important for, I read it, 72 countries have #1 trade relationships with the European Union. So if we are smart about it, if we speak as one European Union, we have the bandwidth to have bilateral agreements where we will be able to say, these are our key assets from Europe that we are competitive with, and we will trade with you, we will partner with you, we will create markets in the world for the things where we have our strength, not the things where we have lost the battle with other producers, but really go one by one and see these are the drivers, these are the products where we have the competitive edge, and help that across the border.
That's a very good idea, but for that to work, you have to be very, very decisive in actually creating your trade policy in a more assertive way, because as Marcin earlier said, the way Europe always made their policies is we create targets, we create market. Once you meet the criteria, you're welcome. But in this way, we basically outsourced energy transition to cheaper countries like China. And if we want to create this new philosophy of economic policy or energy transition, we need to have some trade barriers. So if you want to create market in Europe and in our friendly countries, then we need to be actually adamant about, okay, if you don't play according to the rules, if you provide technology at dumping prices, if you provide technology that is subsidized, then there is a wall. Can we do that in Europe?
I would say we have to. We have been maybe too nice sometimes in our relations, and we have been playing by the rule book of WTO.
Extremely nice.
And
not to say naive, but
I'm not saying that we should put trade barriers and tariffs everywhere and on everyone, depending whether we like them or not. But we need to have a balanced relationship, and we need to be very assertive when we see that there is unfair competition from the other side. So I think that needs to happen, and we need to stick together as well. So that if Germany has a problem with a particular trade relationship, that should be also a problem that the whole European Union would be looking at. So we have to do more of that, and we also have to put the tag of decarbonization, and that's where we are starting with the instrument called CBAM, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, where we want to protect European production from going abroad with the production, or from imports that do not recognize the carbon price. So we are at the start of that process. We have to do it right, and it's going to be the other side of the coin of decarbonization in Europe, that we are also asking our partners, hello, we want to work with you, but we need you to decarbonize as well, because in the end of the day, we are in this climate crisis together, and we, as 6% of global emissions, will not resolve it.
That's very interesting. Ari, I think you must listening to this with dread and, fear. You work for a international financing institution that lives off multilateral world. Do you see changes appearing? Do you see that it's changing slightly, and how you feel that could be? That could mean, what could it mean for you?
Well, we clearly see geopolitical changes and the slowdown of foreign investment and trade very clearly. Now, I think without entering into this debate on subsidies. I mean, subsidies remain, to us, the last resort once you have explored a much broader option of policy elements, right? And for that, I mentioned innovation. It's not just technology innovation, it's policy innovation too. And it has to start with a very fine understanding of the drivers behind competitiveness. So for instance, at the World Bank, I mean, we try to provide a lot of evidence based on analytics. And I just want to point out two very important reports recently developed. This one, the Country Climate and Development Report for Poland, developed in partnership with Ministry of Climate and Ministry of Finance. This report highlights that, and I'm going to use my notes, it highlights that if Poland was to accelerate its decarbonization path to net zero by 2050, growth would be at least 4% more in 2050 than it would be at the current policy level. Second, that if you add health and productivity gains from clean air due to accelerating the net zero transition, you would add another 3.8% of cumulative GDP growth. And finally, investment in resilience could also eliminate losses between 0.4 and 1.2% of GDP. So we fundamentally believe that the decarbonization goes hand in hand with the competitiveness agenda. And the second report, and that responds a bit to Marcin's comment that we issued in December, is the regular economic report. I'm going to look the name again. Energizing Europe, Rising to the Challenge. And this report analyzes very finely, on the basis of economic complexity in the 4 EU economies of CEE, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, what could be clean tech value chains for which this country could be competitive without specific subsidies. Much more than, and we estimate that these countries can triple their exports in those clean tech value chain. So when I say clean tech, meaning wind, solar PV, heat pumps, batteries, by 2030, just with the right policies. Now, this is not to say it's easy. So the policies, I mean, they require, as I said, a lot of focus and, as you said, a lot of courage. But in the CCDR, I think we identify three packages that have to be implemented in priority. And they have little to do with subsidies. I mean, the first one is enabling private investment. Even with very large EU funds, and the public funds will not be enough to finance the investments that are needed. But also private investment is a way to bring innovation, to bring risk-taking that governments or state-owned enterprises do not bring by themselves. So I would say, looking at the role of SOEs, state-owned enterprises in our region, I mean, not just Poland, I mean, to me, seems a big policy priority. Can they crowd in the private sector instead of competing with the private sector? Developing a large program of private participation in infrastructure. Because again, I mean, when you invest in infrastructure project, I mean, you are taking 20, 40-year risks, climate change, technology change, etc. Why don't you share some of these risks with the private sector? So instead of public procurement, and even with a lot of EU grants, public procurement seems very attractive, but public procurement, you get a piece of equipment. In a public-private partnership, you contract someone on a best bidder basis to build and operate the best solution, taking into account operation costs for the next 40 years and technology risks and risks related to climate change, etc. Second big package, and this is where, I mean, I'm actually quite happy with the EU proposal in the Compass, is the very strong focus on reducing energy prices. and the very strong focus on transmission, interconnection, the integrated EU capacity market, because this is, I mean, what we've been seeing in the world in general, in the world of power, in the World Bank for a few years now. I mean, this is absolute priority. And third, I think we talked a lot about it. I mean, invest in resilience. In Poland is particularly important, floods and drought. But also, what I want to mention is operate a just transition out of coal, because these reforms are difficult. And if anyone feels left behind, I mean, the risks that they fail is pretty important. But at the same time, we have 10, 15 years ahead of us to really now take the decisions and implement the actions that will make this transition out of coal painless.
So I think you're saying that your report clearly says that we shouldn't really change too much, because we are on a good track, especially in Poland. But if you ask companies around, well, let's ask companies. Like, what do you think about the compass and where we are in Europe? Let's start with Agata, maybe.
Well, I would be very pragmatic and very simple, okay? It's very difficult for a bus manufacturer, a leading bus manufacturer in Europe, to be cost-effective, innovative, and with neutral carbon, with a zero carbon footprint. It's impossible for us at the time to work on this all the time, even with the CBAM report that gives an ache and headache to everyone, because we have to go through understanding procedures, and that gives a huge burden on performance of those kind of companies, because we are big OEMs that feel that the regulation, the red tape is increasing, whilst we are really not focusing on the right things. And then we are bound by public procurement, so this is not a business to business, this is not automotive, this is public procurement. We play in a competition, and we present the best solutions and conditions to public operators who want to have safe, reliable solution that is effective, has a quality, has a technology innovation, but most and foremost, they look at the costs. And then whether I say, oh, but we are the European leader, and you know, we have 3,000 people in Europe, and everything has been created in Poland, the innovation, the engineers, the job creation, the supply chain that we create in 70% from local ecosystem, the batteries, etc., we think about that. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it is a product that needs to be cost effective for many public operators. And that it's a dichotomy, because we say we want to see electric buses on every street of every country in Europe or globally. But how to make it happen where the competition, which I think in principle is an important fundament for boosting economies, it doesn't seem to be fair at all fronts, right? Because we go through all those regulations, we listen to the targets. Sometimes we don't understand, but it's fine, we're here, we just decided to be in Europe, and this is our hometown, and this is our home place. But sometimes we think that some of the others have a better life, because then they compete with us, and they get big orders, and everyone accepts that. And that's something that clashes with us, because then we would say, why would you not even look that this is, and I'm not saying only about Solaris, I mean, there are other companies, but in Europe that are struggling the same, and the market is, I mean, automotive and bus industry is completely different, so, and the scale is different, the attention is different, so the gravity is also different. But in the last 12 months, we have seen exits from big players that they've been closing factories in Poland itself. So there's a job loss, the supply chain is collapsing. So it's quite a serious situation. And so we as business, and I'm very happy that we are here with Bartek also, because I think it adds the flavor of what reality looks like on a day-to-day life of us, of big companies, that I think that policies and dialogues, it's important, but we need to move, and we need to start translating this into practical actions. and what it means for those businesses. And I don't know if it means talking to businesses more straightforward or on a regular basis, because I know this forum exists. But really the struggles that we have are the day-to-day struggles that it's difficult to compete if you really are surrounded by things that are not making it more, they're not making it easier. It's a growing list of constraints rather than helping us to boost economies.
I think that's very sobering. I think that the picture is quite clear, and Bartek will follow up soon. But for me, the picture is quite clear. You can decarbonize fast, and you can reduce the cost for end consumer. In your case, for a city, for people buying tickets to go on public transport. But if you do it cheaply, then you eliminate European industries, because you have to compete with global players, and prices on these products are global. And in Europe, if we don't have policy that prefers transitioning companies in Europe, then we'll decarbonize, but we'll lose the industries. Bartek, is this the kind of the gist?
Yeah, I fully agree with Agata, of course, but I would like to comment about the compass and the European situation first. So what has changed dramatically in the last 5 years? We have 3 regions which dominating right now. So it's China. Forget about Japan. Japan is no longer in the game, unfortunately. They're struggling a lot. China, Europe, and US. And China and US decided to put one bold goal on the one as a main KPI for their economy. Maybe we're not noticing it, but I have a pleasure to be a board member traveling to China and US a couple of times a year and speaking to the bosses as well, and they're telling us strictly. So what's the bold goal of China? Do you know it? It's China will rule the world. This is the bold. And all China economy works on this one goal. So state subsidies, investment are focused to fulfill the top goal, to rule the world. Economically, of course. So they want that we will be buying only China products. China buses, China cars, China components, appliances, everything from China. So they're quite succeeding in Europe. Now we have to look at the US. And they also put a very bold goal, one KPI. So to maintain the way of living and keeping the jobs. It's very straightforward goal for them. And all US economy right now is focusing to fulfill this goal. So all federal subsidies, their tariffs, everything is going to fulfill the goal. So keep the jobs, create new jobs, and maintain American way of living. And now we are looking at Europe. We are struggling with creating single one goal. Then we are starting talking about the compasses, thousands of initiatives with like ESG, for example. Yeah. So what ESG will bring us at the end of the day? What, let's say, market subsidies will bring us? We don't know, because we didn't put single goal for European Union to be, let's say, focused on and make all the policies and all the subsidies focusing on this goal. And then, if we will do it, then let's see it in Europe and let's find out. Maybe maybe ruling the world is not good goal. So we are not Chinese and their way of thinking. Maybe we should follow Americans. I would agree. Let's put a goal in Europe, create new jobs, or keep existing ones and maintain our way of living. And then make all the subsidies, all the European policies focusing on this one goal. Then we can quickly find out, then if you focus on it, then we'll be spending money only on initiatives, keeping this one target. So creating new jobs means bringing factories to Europe, bringing technologies to Europe, bringing competition to European companies, protecting European market from other countries. All the things we should do in Europe, we should to focus on one goal. I don't know if the creating new jobs or keeping existing jobs in Europe is a good goal. I personally believe it's very important, because why Americans put this goal? Because of the things they did in the 80s, maybe you can read about Jack Welch and his policy of focusing on the investors, not on the people, and he exported the jobs from US to China and Asia. Now they thinking the opposite way, but they're doing everything to make this goal. And coming back to Compass, I think this is this discussion we have to take, create at least 1 or 2 goals for the whole Europe, and then, let's say, make everything and spend money to fulfill it. Okay,
Miko, I'll come to you as a new Brum in the new seat. Do you see any good clean tech projects that Europe could become a champion, or it's really looking as they are all in a similar seat, like the name Marcin didn't want to mention?
Yeah. Actually, I mean, the best answer for why we need these kind of policies like Green Deal was initiated or new Clean Industrial Deal is one. Let's say this book. This is like almost 200 initiatives and project investments. I think so. I will bring it to you, Minister. This is special for you because it is the very real proof of this. That is a real project, real factories that are being today built in Europe. So the question today, whether it makes sense to set up these kind of targets with zero emission until 2030, 40 or 50. I mean, yes, I'm very much in favor because today we have 200 new projects in Europe. Last year, 9.5 billion euros were invested in those projects. So financial institutions, yes, they have taken their own risk to invest in those companies, clean tech companies. And we need more of this. I would say even more. We have to speed up, not to blame Green Deal for everything. Why should we? This is something that I don't understand since a few months, that there are many voices saying that, okay, we have to change the Green Deal, the policy, but what is wrong about this? I really do not understand this, because actually it really helps us rather to decrease the prices of energy. Remember August 2022. That was the price hike on the exchange, on the old exchanges, energy exchanges in Europe, like 2,500 Polish zloty, 1,000 euro per 1 megawatt hour, 1,000 euro. And the only reason why we survived in September 2022, after the war of Russia against Ukraine, was because of the great production of renewable within the 2 months, August, September, and October, 3 months. That was the only one reason why we decreased the prices, because of the renewable energy output and production. And that's the reason really we have to speed up and make use what we have today. We have access to wind, we have access to sun, we have as well access to heat. Sometimes very much we often forget about this, but we need more heat in our heat system, actually thermal system. So actually we have to make use and speed up this process and actually not only blame 2024. It was a very difficult year for all industries, whether it is automotive, steel industry. In those cases, I understand we should impose a certain kind of tariffs, but not for forever, but maybe for 1-2 years to survive a certain factories, because otherwise they will really be idled and they will go bust within the coming months. So maybe yes, for 1-2 years, but not longer on, because really they will compete and we can compete within our products in Europe.
It's certainly a very interesting book. I found one page that interests me a lot.
Green fertilizers. Why should we produce fertilizers from gas which is imported from all over the world? We have to produce this here. We have this technology already within our borders. We need more money for R&D. Okay, we have maybe more appetite risk from the investors, from the banks, because we need money for the R&D. But then within 5 years we will have green fertilizers. Will be produced within our borders without gas anymore. But we have to really believe in this. Actually, we have 2 projects, so we have already invested in this. So we know this.
Yes, but my interest was not on the green fertilizers. It seems that there's a name that must not be named, because Marcin didn't mention it, you didn't mention it. It's on page 117, Northvolt, Swedish company, and it's actually, well, I don't know if it's sad or funny, but there's a passage in the book says customer references available on request. I'm not sure. But what happened with Northvolt? Like, can we do this kind of scale? Maybe we can't. Maybe it's gone.
No. This is a very good proof that that was a very good beginning in the Polish Polish as well, but Swedish generally, this part of Central of Europe. Openness for risk and new risk appetite, because 15 billion euros have been invested from all over the world, many banks, investment banks. They decided, Europe is a very promising market. Sweden, because of the energy prices, very well. Yes, what lacked was the execution at the end of the day in something that was foreseen to be executed in terms of delivering the best quality of the batteries. It was not achieved last year, so that is the reason why it went after Chapter 11. But I strongly believe that that maybe this year, I cannot say for 100% sure, but we will see that part of this investment, whether recycling, whether production of the batteries, whether the Polish battery in Gdańsk will revive and will start another production. So I wouldn't say that this is something that it is already closed and it will not be continued. This is not only the one case. Of course, we have some other cases like impact in power technologies. We have the Prime within as well our portfolio from Romania. Profitable battery producer already today in Romania, so we are really very proud of this as well. And another few companies like Verkor, for example, this is a new company that is currently being built in France with 2 billion euros of subsidies. A new gigafactory that is going to be built and deliver the batteries for the automotive industry. Obviously, we are facing risk because of the low price competition from China. But on the other hand, we cannot just only idle, stop and do nothing. We have to continue our process.
Thanks. I have to come back to Bartek. What do you think about this? I know it's your, potential competitor, but is Europe capable of moving to large scale like China is?
Yes, well, we never seen Northvolt as our competitor, so we are in talks with them from the very beginning. But we have to get back.
This is very mean.
We have to get back to the basic of the commercial operation. You have Excel file and you have banks, and in order to operate, you have to everything on green, at least in a certain perspective. So if you don't have it and you rely only on subsidies, and you think, for the next 2 years I will apply for more subsidies, my Excel is still red. You cannot work like this, sorry. And every bank guy will tell you the same. So I'm an engineer, even PhD, but my specialty is how to talk to the banks, how to create business plans. We will go to the risk committee at the bank and I can get money for my business. If I will not do it, even if I have the best technology in the world, I will not make a product. So these things, what Northvolt didn't make. So they were read years ago, and there was no even, perspective for them being green without subsidies. So we are touching important subject. It's important to get subsidies to launch something which is innovative, and absolutely we have to do it if it creates jobs. Remember my bold goal for Europe. We have to look at everything if it creates jobs. But then this business has to be on self, financing. We have to have banks which are looking at our business plan, it will be working. So Impact in Clean Power Technology is 20 years old company. So we started in garage, I was one of the founders, but we are 20 years old. And I believe we are the oldest battery company in the world because all our past competitors are already bankrupt. So we were focusing on those Excels, and we are green. We have positive EBITDA this year. You'll soon see our results because we were listed on the Warsaw Stock Exchange via Grenevia. So only because of this, we can continue. So let's use the subsidies in the right way, but not base of them forever. And this was most probably, of course, there are plenty of other reasons we can discuss later, what was behind Northvolt, but the first main reason was simply Excel with non-green numbers.
And actually, just only another very big challenge today, what we have, which is a great opportunity for the whole industry, for you as well, Bartek. I mean, this is the BSSS, because of the curtailment and the production of renewable. And so what we see today on the market, in Poland, Sweden, Germany, Spain, Italy, for example, huge opportunities for the battery sector, battery producers, BMS producers, how to manage, where artificial intelligence will be used to manage those big batteries, and together with data centers. I mean, this is something huge, and what we see today is a really big move into establishing a European production facilities in this sector. But obviously, we need better regulation that will, let's say, support those kind of investments, yes. But the BSSS, this is the biggest market right now for the, let's say, the next 5 to 6 years in Europe.
So, sorry, if you create European jobs, yes, let's focus it. But if you're just creating market for Chinese products, maybe it's a mistake.
No, it's not only about the Chinese market. Obviously not. I would be against this, but rather to always to find the right balance between not only 100% European products, because this is impossible and it would be too much dream. Yes, we should not dream, but as well support the companies that are producing. But what I would say, because I used to build some factories in China as well, I mean, we should be as well open for their investments to invest and to build new factories as well in Europe. Why not? I mean, the market is open. They can
Full agree.
And produce as well
create jobs
in Poland or in Spain.
Someone get me a popcorn, please.
Yeah. I mean, with these jobs is something, yes, it's a very tough question. What does it mean, job? What kind of job do you mean, actually? An engineering job, or are you meaning somebody, which kind? That's another story.
Job means sustainable job, so it will not be, let's say, deleted 2 years later after the subsidized project. Yeah?
Okay, but I totally agree. But in terms of the valuation of the company and your investments, if you will rely only on, okay, because I need 3,000 people employed in the factory, it will not create a big valuation of your company. This is the reason why Tesla is today so popular in US. Even after Trump announced, okay, a certain withdrawal from electric vehicles, and still the company is growing on the market, on the exchange. Even they slow down their production because autonomous production and the factories without men. And so the big valuation is in this kind of new approach to the factories. Yeah.
Marcin, you wanted to come back and add something.
This is maybe not a seminar about Northvolt, but the problem was not the existing or lack of subsidies because they did not use it. They have enough capital from investors, and quality of end product was excellent. The problem was that the percentage of scrappage was too big to be commercially viable. So I think what we need to admit that we have problem in Europe with new way of industry is doing and with massive production of clean tech. And we have relearn those elements or simply learn how to do massive production of batteries, solars, etc. And I hope that this lesson of Norvolt will be a lesson for all Europeans, that we should not be arrogant and focus on delivery.
I think it must be a lesson, because it's been, you know, regarded as one of the flagships of European new industrial policy, and that's why it's very painful for all Europeans that, you know, it can be a proof that Europe cannot do innovation or innovative products, and that I think that's the one sobering fact that we need to take into consideration. But I think there's a big elephant in the room, in a way that it's very difficult for Europe to actually get the transition right, because we have very powerful legacy companies that have to do the transitioning and also introducing new products, while the Chinese have it very simply, because they start from scratch and they learn, they implement, and the transport revolution is case in point, where, you know, we have been champions in internal combustion engine. The German combustion engines are great and will die great, but, you know, battery vehicles are very simple to make, and if you invest and if you subsidize it, then you have a very good product very fast. And the Chinese made it very fast. So now we kind of, our legacy producers have to play on two pianos, while the Chinese just make good electric cars, and you know, better and better and better. Can we actually, you know, cope with that?
I think, I mean, one of the big lessons from Northvolt is subsidies do not replace 10 years or 15 years of experience, in particular in production. So I think we still believe in the power of competitive markets, and I think if there is a need to bring back production in Europe, I would agree that we should be agnostic about where this production comes from. I'm sorry, but I'm going to cite quote another report from the World Bank, which is the World Development Report last year on the middle income trap. And it looks at how countries like China, Chile, Poland have been among the very few countries who escaped the middle income trap. And what these countries have done is encourage investment, foreign investment, make sure that this investment then in a second phase create infusion of knowledge in their countries through the supply chain, through the connection with the global value chain, etc., the technology infusion, and then started to develop their own innovation. So Poland is out of the middle income trap, but this infusion innovation process is still underway. So if you want to develop very big battery supply chain in Europe, I mean, I would agree that we should welcome anyone who has the capacity and skills, as long as it comes along with a lot of constraint or on infusion trickling down to the local value chain, etc.
Okay, Jan, you wanted to come back, and then Marcin.
Yeah, there is a number of differences where Europe will not be the same as US and China. We could discuss whether the Chinese model of governance or the US model of governance we like or not, but we are different, and one big difference is that they are unitary states and we are a community which needs to agree, and that's sometimes painful. I think that when it comes to the role of the state or the states, at least in Europe, there's four key. I would suggest four key things that need to happen. One, the state needs to create the infrastructure, so the basic infrastructure for energies, for transport, etc., so that the network is existing, and that cannot be done by businesses, or at least not alone. Second, to set the vision and the predictability of where we want to be in 2030, 2050, and keep it, and don't change it 1 year after the adoption of the regulation. Say, well, actually, shouldn't we rethink it? So if we have a vision, stick to it, and that serves as a compass, if you will. Then the states need to minimize the bureaucracy, and it needs to be a constant exercise and kind of sobering. What have we created? Is it bringing us to the target as efficiently as possible. And we all have our responsibility in Europe, in the member states, at all the levels of government where we can do better. And finally, the big strength that the public sector has is the public procurement. There's about 25% of GDP that is subject to public procurement, and that's probably the most promising for seeing how we can achieve the bi-European type of approach, where we can influence the procuring. We don't need to look only at the cheapest price. We need to think, okay, what are the risks associated? What security risks this brings? What are the other considerations, such as jobs in Europe, etc. So there are functions which the states can do without needing to subsidize here, there, and kind of fixing holes, which is needed at some points. But there is other functions which may be more efficient.
Before I give the floor to Marcin, I wanted to follow up on this public procurement, because I think it's a very good idea. But today we have 27 different regimes. Do you have any kind of idea how to change this? Because I can give you a Polish example where if you an official, a desk officer, if you will, responsible for writing the public procurement, you always go for the low price, because you're scared that if you go for something else, then the police will enter and say, why did you choose something that is more expensive? Oh, because there was a cybersecurity thing. No. There's a lobbying going on. You go to jail. So I think that this is very kind of difficult to actually change that. Do you have an idea?
Well, if you read the Compass again, and I'm not here to promote the product, but one thing which I liked on the slogan is that it suggests one regulation in, 27 out. So you have opportunities to harmonize the legislation and to bring one European solution. We have one European solution for the Innovation Fund, for instance, that DG Klima is running, where we are basically making auctions and grants, and we are offering these, and we are ready to extrapolate that to offer auctions as a service, grants as a service, where basically you would have a mechanism that is European, and you use it for the European funds, or you can use it for funds from the member states, and the EU mechanism would do a service, and then you don't need to know 27 times whatever regions, etc., but many procurement regimes. But you would know that it will be a uniform, and it should be faster and more understandable. And then basically you use it as a vehicle for what you need to do. There are ways to simplify, but again, you need to have the political will to do that.
Marcin?
We maybe can add a provision made in Europe as a condition, but that will be not enough to save European industry. Yesterday, the President of the Commission said that the time of cheap security policy funded by US is gone. But I think we have also other dimensions that time is changed. And I will use an example of Volkswagen in China, Volkswagen and Tesla. German engineers are not necessarily less clever than those from Tesla, but they are not able to produce enough competitive in terms of price cars, because if you are Tesla supplier, you need to guarantee to Tesla that you are not using manpower in the production. And Volkswagen has number of trade unions saying preserve this one, not fire this one, etc. And that we need also to admit that those security time for jobs is maybe not gone, but we need to work on it. We need to preserve industrial value chain in Europe to create added value to finance those people, but not necessarily in the production lines. Because if Volkswagen need to be competitive vis-à-vis Tesla, automatically he need to invite number of people to go out. That is also the element we need to admit.
Maybe, yeah, if I have one comment on this, that's very, very exactly important, but that's what we have discussed with Bartek as well. So actually, because in our previous work, we built 2 factories, one dedicated for Tesla, another one for the Volkswagen. And in the Tesla case, it was really very fully automated, so almost like a half autonomous factory. Half autonomous, not only automated. Automated is quite obvious and quite easy, but half autonomous. And that's something how are we really, if we are going to compete, we need a lot of investment into artificial intelligence in proper manner to automate and then to manage from the software-wise approach from this level, from this layer with all the factories. And in terms of Volkswagen Group, this is like 5 times more people that you have to employ if you produce something. They don't demand this from you. This is a completely 2 different words. But all these words are tackling together within one country, which is Germany, which is not so easy. So competitiveness is not only about energy prices, Green Deal. It's about efficiency. How do we really organize ourselves in terms how we are managing the old factories and how are we going to build new factories using the subsidies. And what I would like to say concerning the European Commission, that I'm very much in favor of all your policies, but in terms of sometimes decision making, I would say could be faster. Trump, 2 months ahead of his presidency, already announced that he's going to impose tariffs, and then he influenced, the market capitalization of most of the companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Even he was the president elected, but not yet in function. So, and he did it within 1 day. So I think so from this good experience from their side, from ours bad, I think so we should make, let's say, use and promote this approach rather faster.
I think this is a very interesting point, and I think it's a rather philosophical debate, but also very strategic, because on the one hand, and some of you already made this point, we are 27 states. We are not one country with one legislation, one leader. We are 27 countries, and it's very difficult to have one industrial policy, because let's be honest, we compete also internally in Europe. So that's the main focus, and that will be extremely difficult to change. That all of a sudden we okay, so in Europe we are one, and then we compete outside. I think it's a very difficult construct to gain competitiveness if you need to maintain the 27 member states and small markets and cater for those small markets with different languages, slightly different roles, and is this at all possible to have strong European industrial policy, or we are condemned to policies driven by big member states? Maybe I'll start with you, Jan.
Yeah, I think that several times was said that the big problem, or maybe the biggest problem at the moment, are the energy prices. And the energy prices are because we are dependent on energy imports, and we need to resolve it, and we can resolve it by producing energy locally in a clean way, and by being able to cooperate in Europe in sharing the energy, because the sun is shining in a particular time and the wind is blowing in another time, and you need to store the energy. So we need to have European thinking about having European energy, and that will bring the prices down. And that has been difficult as well. And of course, you have opinions: do we want nuclear? Do we not? The energy mixes, etc. But in the end, we are in this together, and there are limitations of the state boundaries in being able to bring down the energy prices. And we will see this will be in the center of the clean industrial deal. And this will be given to the leaders. Are you ready to act on this and to act more together? And obviously there will be competition within Europe as well, but that competition should not be at the expense of injuring ourselves so that we are not able to compete with the rest of the world. And obviously this is not easy. This is easier said than done. You have different governments with different voices in the council, and but I think that with such a strong voice that we need to be stronger together, there is a chance that there will be a realization. Okay, so let's find the common denominator more than we were able to do until now.
Marcin, do you think it's at all possible to have more? Because I think the message is quite clear and quite simple. If we want strong industrial policy in Europe, we need more Europe. Is more Europe a good message in these political times?
I like your question. Can we afford European policy, or we are, how to say, condemned to have industrial policy of big players? Because that is not obvious how to answer that. But maybe I had a private conversation with one friend a month ago, saying that I am not. I am sad looking at my kids, because when we were young and starting our career.
What do you mean? We're still young.
We had only opportunities, and we are still young, keeping our chairs, and they are blocked by us. And he's in the clean tech industry, and he was saying, today is the most promising time ever in the history of human being, with new technologies, artificial intelligence, etc. So look at traditional manufacturers, automotive producers. They are struggling. They are, as you are saying, legacy automakers. They are from 19th century or maybe 20, but they are not from 21st century. So it is difficult, but it's not per se defined that those legacy producers or giants will survive this U-turn. We need to focus to maintain added value in Europe and not export our money elsewhere. That is what we should concentrate. But there is no fate that only those giants will say us what to do.
Okay, so we started very optimistically, then we descended to hell, and let's try to emerge. How do you see? How can we improve? How can we fix the where we are? I'll start from Agata.
Well, I don't know if we can fix it, but we were discussing with Bartek just before our various trips to the US, because both companies have plans to embed our businesses over there. And as you said, on the new president in the US, when someone says something over there, it just happens, okay? And no one really budges, and there's no chapter and saga on what does it mean, and I think that's what it's a strength of Europe that, I mean, we have dialogues and we discuss and we have policies. But really, as Bartek said, I think we are lacking that direction, that one direction where we want to be as Europe. At every level, at policy level, at business level, at the state level, because business will either fail or will leave. It's a very sad story, and the legacy dinosaurs, they will struggle. But as I said, when I joined Solaris 5 years ago, I only had six competitors. Now I have more than 30 from all over the world. Okay, in the US, there are 2 bus manufacturers. The demand is immense. Okay, no one can fill the capacity. There are no batteries over there. But it's a status quo, and they're waiting for fresh blood, right? And that's exciting. In Europe, it's much more difficult, and it's much more challenging to continue like this. So I think we cannot continue like this, because sooner or later, some of us will fail. And I think that this is the moment, and I agree, it's whilst the things are coming into a picture that looks a bit gray, it's a moment where we have to say this is the time to change all those things and decide what we really want to be, because no one will do it for us. And we will be left behind, and someone else will take the place. Because I think I've commented to you when we met, talking about the famous Chinese, but even on every other company that wants to come to Europe, they are no longer low-quality products. No, they bring quality. They are faster than us, and they bring the supply the way we cannot. And so if I were the one to choose, I would also say, oh, okay, that's a great product. And I have a lot of colleagues, engineers, who push and say, no, but these products are much better because they have other options and the software elements are developed much faster. So I think this is where we need to start thinking about those things, because otherwise, really, we will be eaten alive. And I don't like it. I don't like that feeling.
Okay, but optimistically, what can we do? What can we do? What is your
from my
question
perspective,
for policymakers?
As I would say, from a very small bus industry segment, I would really like, even at the public procurement that was mentioned here, there are rules, and usually the bus orders are much smaller, so they don't qualify for those amounts. But I would really push legacies and policymakers, because there are countries like Scandinavian countries that they really make it their life to say, no, only European products. And it doesn't matter if it's expensive, because we pay for a premium product, and we want this bus to be there for 12 years with good batteries that have performance, and they are also new technologies. But this is all for our passengers and for the public transport, for the transformation, because we believe in it. And I think that's what's lacking, that's that consistency. If we believe in something, let's just move it into action, and then let's be very consistent in checking in everyone is following the rule. But if we have 27 other countries that they do, then it's tricky. So I think I understand it's difficult, because we will never be speaking with one voice. But at the moment, I agree that the agendas are not really aligned towards the same goal.
I think that if we aiming for speaking with one voice, now is the time to actually agree at least some headlines, maybe not just one message, but at least some points. I think the reports by Draghi, Letta, and the discussion we having now in Europe, I think this is the time. This is the time where we can actually agree on something more cohesive. Harry?
Yeah, I fully agree with Agata, so maybe I would like to add one thing to it.
Go ahead. Business first.
In US, there is a freedom of choice. Everybody can buy combustion engine car or electric car, and there is no, let's say, restrictions in the cities or something like this. There will never be. But looking from the business point of view, from our perspective, European perspective, it's only one way. So we can't sell our product to US, and we can't sell our product to China without fulfilling certain things. In US, for example, it's Buy America program or high tariffs. So buses funded by the federal money has to be produced in US by law. And what does it mean by America? So something like 80% of components should be assembled in US and come from US factories. And this is the law. If you're spending public money, federal money, case in US, is this case. Now you go to China, you want to sell buses or cars in China, you have to establish Chinese manufacturing facility with 51% at least on the Chinese government involvement in it and have Chinese supply chain. Then you will be able to enter Chinese market with your products. So two restrictions in US and in China. What we have in Europe, everybody invited. No walls. We don't even ask them to put those production in China. So this is what Agata is trying to say.
In Europe?
Yes, in Europe. What's the solution? What we are trying to say to European Commission? Yeah, okay, if somebody wants to use the public money or subsidies to sell in Europe, let him fulfill something like Buy Europe requirements. Let this facility will be in Europe. Yeah? Maybe it could be Chinese ownership, whatever, but it has to be European facility with European supply chain, and it's strictly 80%. And then we have commission who can audit, go there and check point by point, like in the US, audits with, you know, we have to sign as a management that the bill of material is true, that everything is American. Under the law, there is no penalty, there is money penalty, it's jail if it's not fulfilled. It's very simple, and everybody is fulfilling. So this is very simple task. Of course, whole Europe should agree on it. It's not easy, 27 states.
And also, because it's already happening, they are establishing operations in Europe with their own factories, so they're doing it, and no one has control over it. But there are pros and cons, because if we are really, with the ESG and sustainability and the CSRD directive, if we are supposed to be tracking every element of raw materials towards Uganda and the violation of human rights, etc. And European companies, they have to comply. They have to comply, they have to spend money on that, and they will be penalized by NGOs, watchdogs, etc. Because our clients also require that. We have public operators who ask, do you have this knowledge? Do you have a proof that this battery and raw materials and cells have been produced in a clean, safe way? And this is on us.
Don't do this. It's clean and safe.
Yeah, but clean and
It's clean and safe.
Correct. And it's happening, right? And it's happening, but the burden is on me as a bus manufacturer in Europe. So if we move those companies, and it's fine because it's competition, and we are lacking that competition in Europe as well to boost economies, innovation, technologies, etc. If they're here, then we can really have a better supply chain, have more transparency, and we know that the product is solid and legit. At the moment, it's a dichotomy of here we have rules, there we don't. So everyone is trying to find a way. It's a usual way, right? I don't think it's the time for that anymore.
Okay, thanks. Mikołaj, we're moving up the value chain. How can we
definitely.
improve?
I think so, yes. I'm not here to give any orders to the government or the European Commission, only just advice.
Please, advice.
Only advice. But actually, what I would say that yes, European Union definitely has a very strong tool, which is a single market, and how they can really, let's say, impose or not impose or propose to impose certain restrictions. And why not, from your point of view, not from the Polish government, not to propose a certain regulation like, okay, for 2 or 3 years, because right now we are interested how to survive and how to develop the businesses, what we are talking about for the next, let's say, 3 years, maybe no longer. Impose special tariffs or impose regulations that 90 or 80% of the product that we produce, the Chinese or the batteries or automotive, should be built from the components that are produced in Europe. So, for example, this is a very simple question. Why not to start this discussion, to be very concrete, because this is something that the whole business, private, state-owned business, expects from the policy making today, actually. Yeah? So this is a very open question. Why not? This is not to the Polish government, this is rather to the European Council or European Commission to come up with this kind of solution, let's say for 3 years. Yes, there is a 5 years mandate for the European Commission currently. So why not to introduce this kind of law? It was introduced in the US for the last 3 years and was very efficient and effective. Everybody then wanted to invest in US, not in Europe, and
create jobs there.
And create jobs, okay, but maybe create jobs producing robots or this kind of humanoids, I would say. I'm very stubborn on this, but this is the very open question: to make Europe attractive for foreign investors to come here and to invest in Europe, because this is this question. No, we don't need 350 pages report of Draghi. We need this very simple question and answer with, I am pretty sure all here present from the business would bring certain good figures to defend this.
To make Europe great again.
Yeah, we will help to operate, but we cannot lobby. This is just
so
a
simple.
proposal. And
it's so simple.
Yes, it's not so very simple, but it could be done within, let's say, 3 months, yes? Everybody will be happy. Because this is not about Green Deal. Forget about this. This is the most important about how to grow the GDP of the whole economy, which is struggling today, versus America, 3.5, China, 4.5, 4.8, or maybe even 5.5 within the coming year, 2025. And in Europe, what we have, 0 or more or less 0.1. Better in Poland, yes, but
Marcin,
we are so unique.
Jan, and then Ari, when we'll wrap up.
Yeah, you started this conversation with 3 words: vision, action, and political courage, if I remember. And I think we need, I would say, maybe 2 points. First, certainty for investors. I don't like the word deregulation in yesterday's communication, because I think the number of people understood deregulation means going back. And I think we need re-regulation, not deregulation, because the objectives of the clean transition and the assumption that competitiveness is based on clean tech and future development of clean technologies is where we need to land. So re-regulation. And re-regulation for me in practical terms means that we have today the start of automotive conversation in Brussels, and probably all automotive producers in Europe would need to pay penalties by the end of the year if they are not exercise a lot. So I think I could imagine a situation where we will say, okay, we will pardon you 2025, we will pardon you 2026. But if you would not meet those requirements for 2027, you will be punished twice. So invest today this money which is supposed to be for penalties, which is, by the way, they are escaping to associating with Tesla and BYD and other Chineses. So re-regulation, not deregulation first. And second sentence, or second point, sense of urgency. When I'm hearing budget will solve issues or challenges, it means 3.5 years from now. We need money and we need action today, and not in 3 or 4 years from now, because that will be much too late.
Okay, now Jan.
Yes, I will not start debating the automotive solutions. I'll leave it to the strategic dialogue led by the Commission President in person in Brussels, and I'm sure that they will find a solution by the way, none of the companies are challenging the final target of 2035, and the question is how to get there. So that's I'll just leave it there. I think that I agree that the urgency is important. That yes, there are cycles, there are financial frameworks that start 2028, but we need the solutions quickly. And we have seen a number of papers already, and I think that they have certain convergence. And what we need probably is, and I said it in the beginning, is a kind of compact that it is in everyone's interest in this room and in this continent that we want this continent to be flourishing and to have the future for our children, and for that we need to stick together, and we need to help that we have the businesses, we have the jobs, we have the governments that are doing their proper creating of the conditions. And that compact could, you mentioned that maybe we need several headlines, and you can give it a try in the Polish presidency. You still have almost all
Political
of it in front
courage.
of you. And definitely we will, from the Commission side, we will support you in that. And to paint less grim picture of what all is going wrong in Europe at the moment, because there are many things that we can and need to build on.
Okay. All right, last word.
Look, I mean, if you add up everything that has been said, you already have an action plan. But I do believe, I mean, we do believe at the bank that a green Europe, a decarbonized Europe can be highly attractive to foreign investment, that this is a condition to continued competitiveness. It is complicated. And when you see the number of the urgency of the action that need to be implemented. I mean, I would say the policies, I mean, we also recognize that to achieve this goal, you need a horizontal policy, market-based, etc., but you also need industrial policies. And one thing that we haven't talked about is also, I mentioned coordination, but place-based policies, right? I mean, not every country is going to be competitive within Europe in every sector. So that's a very important role for the EU to play. Now, what makes me optimistic, and I'm not in charge of the World Bank in Europe, I'm in charge of the World Bank in Poland, and really Poland makes me optimistic in the sense that I do believe that at this unique time in history where Poland is called to take a more central place in a future enlarged Europe, that you have the reconstruction of Ukraine next door, that Poland doesn't have an issue of jobs, it has an issue of lacking workers. And the AI revolution coming in, and none of us can predict fully how it's going to happen, but it's going to impact all jobs. So, plus the demographic challenge, which is also a Damocles spade, but can we think of a virtual circle where jobs fluidly and skills fluidly are managed to operate the transition? I think it requires immediate investment in innovation in Poland. Companies are weak in technology adoption, in R&D, we all know, I mean, the diagnostics, so that is immediate. But can Poland pilot things that will be helpful to the rest of Europe? I mean, I strongly believe so.
Thank you very much. That was a very good conclusion of this panel. Now we open to questions. Please fire away, introduce yourselves, and then crisp questions, and then we have already cycling mics. Thanks.
Henryk Kalinowski. First of all, I would like to thank you for a very inspiring discussion. And I have a few questions. First one is, I like the message about one goal that is in China, that is in US. I think that Europe has one goal. It's net zero policy. And my question is, aren't we afraid as Europe that we will end up with net zero policy and reduce emission to zero, which accounts for 8% of global emission, I guess. But we will have broken economy and Russian tanks inside. And that's my first question. Second one, do we have a realistic plan how to really decrease energy prices, especially electricity prices in Europe? Because all the forecasts that we read in Poland shows that the prices will grow, even though the renewable energy sources will also increase. And we do not see, especially at least me, I do not see the vision of really lowering the energy prices in Poland, and ETS system also doesn't help it. And maybe we should reprioritize and the goals in Europe and put lowering energy prices over the climate goals. And last question is, why do not European Union support nuclear energy sources? Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, first person, and then we rejig the rules. One question per person, please. We collect two more and then, okay. Who's next? I was not paying attention.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof Mrozek, Polish Green Network. Thanks for the excellent panel and your interventions. I wanted to ask you, how do you see the role of the cohesion policy together with the competitiveness policy? How it can strengthen or embrace the social and the green dimension of the competitiveness intervention? We met here in Krakow yesterday. We invited 30 NGOs to discuss this topic. We prepared some recommendations that we'll be happy to hand over to the Polish presidency after the panel, but I'm really curious what is your opinion. Thank you very much.
We have a panel on this tomorrow, so don't jump your gun. One last one at this round.
Very much, Sonia Buchholz, Forum Energy. I would like to ask, because what we know about long term is that in the long run, the cost of inaction will be high, but how much more we, the Europeans, will be willing to pay for this Made in Europe label? So maybe what's the cost of this resilience insurance? What's the pain threshold, no matter how you call it? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So who wants to volunteer to take some questions?
Maybe I would just comment on the energy prices, because it's not so easy to say, okay, it's very high currently. It depends when you buy, when you purchase energy, and what is the part of your energy price. Because, for example, okay, today we have quite low energy prices today in Poland, because they are like more than 420, 410, 15 Polish zlotych, so per 1 megawatt hour. And together with the distribution fee, it's very comparable what you can achieve today on the German market. If you are a producer, you have almost the same prices, no difference between the Polish and the German market. Okay, obviously, there are some special tariffs for the industrial tariffs that supports new investments in Spain or France, a very differentiated approach. And then you can really have like below 50, 40, 60 euro per 1 megawatt hour, which is quite comparable, and this is quite competitive price. Obviously, then let's say 120 or 90 euro per 1 megawatt that you have today. So obviously, what we are threatened today, of course, if the CO2 emission will go up, increase to 90, 95 or 100, it will be much higher. But because of the new investments, for example, in the northern part of Poland, on the Baltic Sea, there will be more renewable energy into the system. So I pretty believe this will bring down the prices. But additionally, what is very important, maybe not yet, maybe underestimated, is when you produce within your industrial zones your own energy, you don't need to pay capacity market fee, you don't need to pay any distribution transmission fees. So at the end of the day, you really dramatically reduce your energy prices by 25-30% already today. But that's very much dependent on the regulation. You can bring down the price, but you need to have the special regulation that your eases you all the investment process, yes, and environmental permit. So those are the ways, yes.
Okay, Jan, which one?
Well, I can tackle maybe 2 or 3.
Well done.
I don't think the European policy is a question of either net zero or industry, and I think we will try to connect that. And I don't think that going to net zero would open the road to more Russia's influence in Europe, and the energy imports is one important part of equation on that. On supporting nuclear, we are, as the European Commission, technology neutral. There is different opinions in Europe about who wants to have nuclear, who not. From the climate perspective, it's carbon neutral, and definitely at this point in time, it's an important part of our decarbonization. And the final point, which I wanted to mention earlier, but obviously we are in a climate panel, even though we talk a lot about economy, but climate in the future, adaptation, resilience is something that is also on the program of the Polish presidency, and it is important to think about it, because the cost of inaction is massive. It's maybe 1 to 7 factor. If we don't act, what would we need to pay later? And the models for Europe show that the global warming might be 2 degrees, but for Europe it's going to be double. So we are in for a warming of 3-4 degrees.
To follow up on nuclear, do you think that in the next stage of targets, it is possible that instead of renewables target, we'll have low carbon target?
Too early to say. We don't have the next targets yet, but I think that from the climate perspective, we see that we need to find a way to climate neutrality, and we need to see the ways which will bring us there in the most efficient way.
Very diplomatic. Okay, so then Made in Europe label, can we pay for this? Maybe Agata?
It's a tricky question. I mean, I think it will come with a charge because there are consequences. And I don't think that you can do a Made in Europe label for everything. I think you need to review the sectors of the trade and define what's the strategic element that we need to protect, and then leave it like that. Because otherwise...
Yeah. PV is gone. I mean, let's forget about it.
So, and then if you ask me, I mean, it's a question of also a mindset and the decision. Again, in America, if I look at the label Made in America, it's made with pride. And wherever you go to all the manufacturing facilities, you see the American flags, and there is a whole system which for some culturally sounds surprising, but there is a belief that this is a product that was made here for the, as Bartek says, for the jobs and by the jobs that are made here, and that for some segments, I think that we are willing to pay the premium for that. Okay, and that's my opinion. I don't know what is the premium for it, and what is the element, and which is, would I say, do you want to pay more for the ticket for the bus that is fully produced in Europe? Well, I would say yes, because it's a product that is it is a quality product that serves a bigger case, okay? Sustainable development, transformation of public transport. We will not have cars in Krakow or in Warsaw or in Poznań. I used to live in London, and I never had a car. Before I came back to Poland 6 years ago, I've never had a car. For me, it was illogical to have a car in London, in Vienna, in Paris, in Berlin. I did not want to have it. I didn't know where to park it. It was a burden, but it was presented to me as a burden. But then I had a bus that was passing every 2 minutes in front of my house. And then I had a tube every 10 minutes from my house. And that was a policy decision. And I think that we still have, in Poland, for example, there is still work to be done about this, because I feel we're lacking in that. But it can be done. It can be done, and you can say that there is a bargain in that, and that is a made in Europe product as a mindset. I would look at it this way.
Thanks. Marcin, you wanted to...
A few comments. I don't think net zero climate policy is a goal. It is a mean. It is not a goal. It is a mean to make us staying here in such conditions we have today, or a little bit more difficult. But this is not a goal. It is a mean. You ask about energy prices, and immediately you jump on nuclear, which is not the cheapest solution on Earth. So I don't see a linear thinking here. And I think on your question, made in Europe, I think that will have climate equation as well, because if we will focus on solars made in Europe or cars made in Europe, whole Tesla 3 will go out of the equation, then our transition will be not fast as it could be. But maybe it is a price to pay in the spirit of preserving European social model. Because if we will not preserve European social model and good industrial jobs, then Marine Le Pen will be the president of European Commission and Parliament in the same time. Thank you.
That's a bold statement. Okay, next round. Ula first here, and then, whatever. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. My name is Adriana Rodriguez, and I work at Climate Strategy and Partners. We collaborate with a few European clean tech associations and also independent think tanks, and we've been putting a set of policy asks for the Commission. A letter was released this week. We're also going to release another letter next week on the next Clean Industrial Deal. And one of these main asks, one of the objectives we're promoting is how to enhance investments for clean tech innovation and manufacturing. And in terms of manufacturing clean tech, the main ask is not like a subsidy raise, but it's how can we develop smart public de-risking mechanisms with the EU budget, such as the one that the EIB launched for the wind sector last year, and that we expect more of those to come. So going back to cohesion, it's 1/3 of the EU budget. It has great potential for delivering these de-risking mechanisms for clean tech manufacturing, but there is a very low uptake of financial instruments. Around 8% of cohesion funds are committed via financial instruments. So what role do you see in the cohesion money to deliver these competitive investments in clean tech manufacturing? How can we coordinate better the use of this money with EU instruments like InvestEU, the EIC Accelerator, the Innovation Fund, and create a more strategic approach to investments in this fund? Thank you.
And Ula, here.
Thank you. Ursula Stefanovic, Climate Coalition. I have a feeling that this discussion is a little detached from physical reality. We have a lot of market,
Thank you.
a lot of competitiveness, but no mention, for example, about limit access to resources, for example. And no mention about need to lower energy needs in all sectors, and no mention about the role of circular economy in these changes that we predict. And maybe we should start thinking that more is not always better, and the question is, can business think in terms of efficiency and sufficiency?
Okay, anyone else? There's a one at the back. And then we try to answer and wrap up.
Thanks. I'm Paweł Czyżak from the Amber think tank, and I have a question about Russian gas, because you've mentioned a few times that the way to lower energy prices and increase competitiveness is through domestic renewables. But just today, there was a report by Financial Times about the EU considering a return to Russian gas imports, and we've actually seen in our data an increase in Russian gas imports last year. So what is the EU's position on Russian gas imports and generally on imports of fossil fuels from for the energy sector?
Okay, thanks a lot. I'll maybe start with business because Ola claims that you know, this was detached from reality. Can you try to answer? Can you be more circular? Are you not?
So I can speak about the batteries. Today we are using graphite, we are using lithium, we are using some rare materials in the batteries. And there are special companies who then recycle those materials and get the black mass for the new battery production and then extract aluminum. And we are fully involved in creating battery passports when you can just by scanning by your phone the QR code on every battery we are manufacturing, find out how many percentage of those materials will be recycled and come back to the economy. So this is implied by law and is working. So this is not issue for us. The real issue is that technology is changing. So we are now worrying about the graphite, we are worrying about the lithium, but 5 years from now, there will be no lithium in the batteries for the buses. There will be no graphite. So we are already in Impact. We are testing niobium batteries today. Niobium-based. It's a niobium-based anode, so no longer graphite. Zero graphite in the battery. The next gen will be anode-free design, and we will replace lithium with other materials like zinc or sodium, and this will happen in the next 5 years. It will improve a lot recyclability and change completely the supply chain and the problems with the raw materials. So this revolution is ongoing. Unfortunately, mostly in China and US, the heavy investment is there. So this is the issue for the Commission, but not the issue of what we do with the old batteries. So from the perspective of the manufacturer, an ESG issue, this problem is solved today because we have, even in Poland, we have companies which are recycling lithium-ion cells and having in the right way, because we are obliged to audit them. We are using external NGOs to trace all the things together. But we have to look at the future.
Agata, I didn't ask this question because I thought that, you know, less is more. It's, you know, you're in business, you count your money, you don't spend for stuff you don't need, right?
Well, I think we can spend less than we do at the moment. That's what we say to our teams. Of course, we are a business, so our profitability is the key driver. And this is the same as a discussion as like what's important, ESG or profitability? Because I have those two teams and they will tell me, so we will go with this tender and they want diesel buses, 300 ones. And I would say, oh, who and why? Oh, is it in Europe? And then, yeah, they're super expensive. And what would I say? Do I say no because ESG is predominant? I cannot. I would say we will do everything to do offers for electric buses because these are more profitable for us as well. And in that sense, we comply, as Jan said, we comply with ESG criteria. And that I think that has to work in that kind of a tandem, that we need to be doing our businesses to comply with different elements of the ecosystem. I look at this as an ecosystem. We are a business, there are other above us, but we all have to work in the same puzzle piece. Now, can we do less and be more efficient? Of course. That's what the European Commission also requires us to do. Even if we want to invest in our new facilities, there is a discussion. Do we do photovoltaic? Can we use less water? Blah, 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 blah. And this is a regular thing that probably people think, oh, this is an obvious stuff for big manufacturing companies. Well, you know, knowing every piece of bus and this recyclability of every element, that wasn't on the agenda of Solaris up to last year because we were never asked to. So it's a new task for our engineers to make sure that we understand, etc. Probably at the moment, I will be very honest, we are not super efficient in many things because we have to learn, and it's a learning curve for us as well, but it's coming. It's coming, and as Bartek said, with battery passports, with all those revolutions, I think I welcome that movement, that it implies on us new obligations, but there are some inefficiencies that we have to work on, and it's a natural part of the growth, I would say, like this.
Thanks. Ari, can you take the question on financial de-risking?
What was the question on financial de-risking? I mean,
what's the connection? Like, can we use cohesion policy for innovative de-risking mechanism? I think, well, my reflexes would be the companies don't care from which funds they are being de-risked. So.
Yeah, I think when it comes to de-risking, you know, I mean, there are a lot of instruments already. At the end of the day, in our view, it all comes to, okay, how do you ensure that you have a minimum concessionality element there, and that the subsidy element doesn't become a drain on the market and on the competition. So I think the one comment that I thought was very important is we didn't talk about energy efficiency. And it was because probably it's so obvious that decarbonization will not happen without energy efficiency, and energy efficiency across households, across firms, and across heavy industries, transportation, but also the difficult industries to abate, steel, cement, etc. So that needs to happen. Although in our modeling, I mean, we are seeing that even that will not be enough. So, you know, I mean, using hydrogen for all this heavy industry will be key, but also using carbon sinks like carbon capture, expanding the area of forest will be a condition for Poland to reach net zero. On the de-risking, I think the key is de-risking what? So, I mean, what we want to de-risk is private investment. So now de-risking innovation is obviously much more complicated than de-risking an investment. So the first way to de-risk is to ensure good policies. And that's, to me, again, you know, we started with that, it's more important. So in Europe, that means maybe diminishing the regulatory burden for businesses, making sure that the environment is competitive and there is a level playing field between state-owned enterprises and the private sector, expanding the size of the capital markets, of course. I mean, I heard a lot about ESG. I mean, ESG, I think you just ask an insurance company today after the California fires, or a bank in Poland who has suffered losses of assets in Wrocław, I mean, in the
flooding,
September floods. I mean, they are not doing this for ESG anymore. I mean, clearly the financial sector sees the risks and have to manage them. It's a question of survival. So I'm not so concerned about ESG, and that remains, to me, ESG a direction of travel for all of us, clearly.
Okay, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think
very briefly.
I also thought that we didn't talk about needing less because we found it obvious, but obviously the cheapest energy is the one that you don't need, and the less we need, the less material that we will need, the less dependencies we will have also on imports. So this is also about the critical materials and where we are getting them. But one thing that we want to revisit is the secondary raw materials and how we can do more with the circular economy, recycling, etc. There is a bigger potential, and obviously we need to electrify, but we also need to look at maybe not needing that much energy.
Thank you very much. And the last question was on the Russian gas. It's been growing. LNG imports of Russian gas has been growing in the recent months. And as the Polish presidency, this is one of our priorities to close the repower package as scheduled until 2027. So now with the next sanction package and some blacklisting of shadow fleet, and also we work with the Commission, with DG Energy in this case, to actually propose some action plan. So we'll be addressing this. Thank you very much for excellent panel. Please give them a big round of applause. And yeah, see you around.